Um, so the budget at a glance, I think that's the second slide down there. Total revenue, all funds is just over 9 million. Total expenditures, all funds is just about 8.9 million. Total net position across all funds is $108,000 that we're adding. You could slice and dice that different ways. General fund, water and sewer, we'll kind of get into those details there. Carly Allen mentioned the combined tax rate, 72.24 cents, up from 63. The reason why that went up is because your taxable values decreased significantly. So looking at the truth in taxation worksheet, which is in here, last year's taxable values were 588 million. And this year's taxable values were about 518 million. So you lost about 11 to 12% just on the taxable values, which is, when the taxable values come down, your tax rate goes up because it's no new revenue to the city, right? So your revenue's got to remain the same. So that's the only way the math could work. So that's kind of the reason why, yes, the tax rate's higher, but like Carly said, it's $5 more on average per household. It's really not that much of a change. Debt service, which I'll get into, $142,000 this year upcoming, and then the total FTEs are 36. All right, we go to next slide here. It's just kind of a bar chart or bar graph on the revenue versus expenditures. You can see the general fund is the largest operating fund that we have. It's more than half of what water and sewer is, and then the marina fund and the capital fund. We good? Okay. So general fund, the largest part of that revenue is the property tax. I know we don't have a huge sales tax base here in this city, so it's just all bedrooms, all property tax, really, that's paying for the majority of the budget itself. So that's what makes up a lot of the revenue. It's good. It's good. It sounds good. Next slide over there is this the property tax rate, which we talked about. So yes, essentially 12%, 13% up on the rate, 12% down on the taxable values. Kind of math makes sense. It's just the way it kind of looks is you look like you're raising the tax rate a whole lot, but you're really not, depending on what size the house is. I did want to highlight the attention. Yes, we don't have our audits done. Yes, we cannot go to the voter approval rate, but you can see right down here, the voter approval rate would have been 75 cents or so. So you'd have had about 3 cents to play with to hit that voter approval rate. And I don't know, I don't see the de minimis on here. I can't remember if the de minimis was, whatever that tax rate is, but it's $500,000 more to the city if you go to the de minimis rate. So those are options we're going to hope to have, not necessarily implement, but options hope to have in the future when we get these audits caught up. All right. Next slide is debt service and fund balances. So the debt service, I kind of wanted to touch on. We got that one bond, the 2021 CO. The tax rate's only a couple cents that makes up the INS. So as we move to get the audits done, you're going to have a lot of flexibility or capacity down the line to actually maybe issue debt without affecting the tax rate a whole lot, or there's going to be real transparency on how we go forward if we want to issue debt. So I don't know what the general feel of council is here because I haven't really been here long enough about issuing debt. What I will say is I've been to a few councils that are heavily against issuing debt, and I've kind of told them hey, the property owners now are paying the taxes for the benefit they're receiving. If you're going to continue to save cash, your property owners now are paying for somebody else to receive the benefit. So debt is essentially not a terrible thing as long as you control the tax rate, but that's just kind of one way I put it. And hopefully we're going to have a little flexibility into the next year on that INS tax rate. You can see the fund balances over there. General fund 1.16 million, and the INS fund's about 38,000. Like Carly said, general fund's still healthy, but obviously working towards the target there to get it higher. And I think really with the revenues and the expenses, I really think it could be accomplished pretty quickly. So and managed. Into a little more detail, the general fund overview. 5.1 million in revenue, 5.1 million expenses, about 24,000 the positive. Really tight, but I think the departments and everything working together is really kind of manageable to get this thing to a balanced budget. I know on our side we feel pretty good about it, and I hope you guys, as you go through the details, you'll feel good about it too. So it's balanced, not really spending more than we're taking in, and we feel pretty good about the general fund. A little more detail on the next slide. By department, so you'll notice administrative services is the largest department that we're spending our money on. It's kind of a little bit skewed this year because I will tell you in the past, you have separated out city manager, finance, city secretary, HR into all these different departments. This year we combined them all into one administrative services department. So while it looks like it's the largest piece of the puzzle, and it is, it might not have looked that way in the past to you because it was all separated out. And then your police and fire are next in line in public works. So it's kind of, just kind of wanted to touch base on how we're going to try and combine things and be a little more streamlined that way instead of having to separate every detail out between every person essentially. Next slide is proposed staffing. I know we had 35 FTE last year. We're going to add 1 this year for 36. So I think that is in administrative services, correct? So, and I think last year public safety was all kind of shared and mixed in, and trying to break that out as best as possible between PD and fire department. All right. Next slide is the enterprise and the other funds. So you'll notice the water and sewer fund, pretty balanced. I know we didn't do anything with rates this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I talked to Karen a little bit before it came. Nothing with rates that we're changing. The marina fund does have a big capital project budgeted this year. However, there's sufficient, I don't think, I know there's sufficient fund balance and cash in that fund to pay for that. So we're drawing down the fund balance in the marina fund to do the capital projects necessary in that fund. We also have another capital improvement fund, which can be used for various things that we're going to transfer $456,000 into. And whether or not we come back with amendments throughout the year to spend that money, there's going to be money set aside for capital projects in the future. We also have some internal service funds for technology and fleet that kind of handle that. The wastewater fund's not really much, about $76,000. We have $100,000 budgeted in the drainage fund for projects. And then your other little funds, hotel occupancy and consolidated court. So all in all, the biggest driver of maybe bringing down the surplus more than we're adding to it are the capital projects for drainage and the capital projects in the marina fund. So next slide is the transfers. We try to be real transparent with how we're moving money between funds and appropriately funding things. So water's paying a franchise fee to the general fund. Marina's paying a franchise fee and an admin reimbursement. So we try to really break those out and let everybody know real transparent how much money is moving between funds. So real common to have the franchise fee for the water. If somebody else did the water and not the city did the water, they would be paying you a franchise fee. So it's real common to actually have a franchise fee come over. Transfers out of the general fund, like I said, we're going to the capital improvement projects, $456,000, and then the technology and fleet, we transfer money to those internal service funds to fund those services that they provide to the city. All right. Next slide is the capital improvement plan. I know Carly said she's been here 51 days. I think we're going to start digging into this as we go on. But put together something, at least something that's in the air, something that's here, that we can maybe have a little roadmap. But I know as we get into this, we're really going to start to dig into what needs to be done on the 5-year horizon, how we're going to fund those things. It's important to have a plan as you go down the line, right? Whether it's issuing debt, getting grants, there's so many things when you have a plan in place, and a 5-year plan is really essential to do that. So And then really, you know, Carly touched on the adoption timelines and next steps. September 8th is really the big day, right? You're going to adopt the tax rate, adopt the budget. And really in between then and now, if you have questions on the line item details and stuff like that, more than happy to send them to Carly. We're more than happy to answer anything and dig into details. You know, this is kind of an open forum, right? Dig into your budget, ask questions. Happy to answer them. So that is kind of the overview presentation. Do we have any questions on that?
I have a question. It's probably obvious, but it escapes me. The Marina Fund, it looks like there's twice as much expense for the capital requirements as the money available. Am I reading that wrong?
I had the same question.
Which number?
Marina Fund.
The Marina Fund, that's the question that I asked Karen earlier, and she provided me with an answer. So the Marina Fund, yes, it looks like that because we're actually having to do those refloats, and that is not covered with revenues from this year, it's covered with revenues from last year. So it looks in this
Oh,
budget
okay.
like it's more expenses than revenues, but it's
money's
just-
there.
The money is there in the
Okay.
reserve fund for the,
Very good,
it's
thank
it's
you.
in the fund. And it actually leaves a healthy over $1 million balance in there as well. It allows us to continue the marina operations if we do those refloats by October 28th, then the Army Corps of Engineers is satisfied.
Makes them happy.
It does, yes, sir.
Very good.
What else you got? Now's your chance.
Yeah, we're here. I know it was a lot probably to take in on the presentation. So that's why usually we're like, hey, you got any questions afterwards, let us know. We'll be happy.
Direct one to the manager. What's the additional full-time position we're contemplating?
The position is actually, it's a partial reallocation of a three, I don't know how to describe her. It was a woman named Ms. Tolman, and she had three positions, HR, CFO, and Assistant City Manager. We're allocating one of those positions to a planning and economic development.
Oh, yes, we
So they'll
spoke
be
about
over city plans, permits, plats, plan reviews, working with SITCOG, and also working with our EDC and all of our city plans, like our strategic plan, capital improvement plan, comprehensive plan, and work plan.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
So if she's gone and we're hiring the city planner, how does that make for one new position? Wouldn't that just be a replacement? of
No,
her?
Mary had three positions, so
Okay.
it's a lesser paid position.
Okay, okay.
Really, the money still works because we're not as expensive as a full-time FTE, so
Yeah, yeah.
that's kind of how the money hopefully will work.
Can I just say, I wanted to be a positive person for a moment. This is the easiest budget we've ever had in 3 years to look at and actually decipher, so thank you.
Welcome.
This process is a breath of fresh air.
So I just, I think I understand this, but I'd like to confirm on the slide on general fund by department. Administrative services is definitely the largest portion of that. So in the past, some of the city manager, city secretary salaries went into those other funds. So this is just showing all of their salaries, and then we'll be pulling out some to pay the other funds for the city secretary and city manager's position, jobs, are working in that area?
So are you saying, typically if there's like an EDC or an enterprise fund that a city manager or an admin staff member services,
Right.
that fund will have a contribution into the city general fund.
Okay, and that's what I was asking. Yeah,
Yes, that-
and that's what's good. So it said, it looks a little different this year.
Correct.
But it's really the very same thing. It's how it's set up, so you can
Yes,
see it.
so they have streamlined it to where administrative services is basically everyone else that's not the PD, Marina,
Okay.
Fire, and
Okay.
Public Works. So it is much more streamlined for ease of reference.
Okay,
And I know there were a few, like, specific line items. I know we increased legal, one of them, right? So that's in the administrative There was audit fees broken out, because you're probably gonna have to pay for 2 audits next year, right? The 25 and 26 to get that done. So there were some costs that added up in that administrative department that maybe, were a little different than the prior year, but overall, apples to apples, line by line, I mean, your postage, your telephone, your cell phone, that stuff stays relatively the same.
Okay.
Anything else, council?
So will we see all those line items or will we not?
They're
Is
there.
that what this is?
Yes, ma'am, you have a full
Okay.
budget in your packet, so
Okay,
it's in
okay.
this.
It's at the
So
bottom.
after the slides,
Yeah.
you have the full budget.
Okay,
And this is,
I see it, I
Yeah.
see it. That didn't get sent to us in the,
it did, yes,
oh,
ma'am.
it did, okay,
Yes,
I missed it.
it's all your line items and,
Okay, very good,
It's the good stuff.
it's all the
That's
details.
what we call the good stuff right there.
okay. Oh, yes,
I did want to touch on like the truth in taxation worksheet though. You know, I'm just thankful y'all don't have any TERSs or anything like that, because it becomes real muddy and real complicated real fast. So yours is pretty cut and dry. But I don't see like any, do we have over 65 stuff? Do we have exemptions and stuff like that? So as we come back to the table next year, I think those are also things that need to be talked about and addressed going forward with property tax. Because there are some things you can do as far as that.
Don't we have to be up on our audits before we can do some of those things?
As far as like giving exemptions, probably not, but raising the tax rate, yes.
I thought there were sources of money
Yes,
to
sir.
cover exemptions.
There are some sources of money you can apply for to cover, he's talking about when we lose money to the military exemption and things like that.
Oh, yes.
Morgan's Point Resort does not qualify yet, but we are looking into that legally.
Thank you.
That is a good point because we went through that, yes, down the road. So, yeah, be working on that. And I didn't know, like, while I'm here, if there's any specific line items in the past that have, brought concern or anything. I'd be happy to look at them. I didn't, obviously don't know what's happened in the past here too much, but any line items or any hot points that are talked about, be happy to try and work through those, so.
And I'd like to thank Doug and Karen again. We have worked around the clock on this to make it as simple as we could. And my instruction was to make it very elementary. It seemed very, very confusing and complicated the last couple years. Looking back at those, it was very hard for even us to understand and unravel. So our goal is transparency first and foremost, and making it readable to the average citizen, not just those that sit on the dais, not just staff, but to everyone. And so after tonight, the full budget, the full proposed budget that council is looking at tonight will be available through the city secretary's office. And that's every line item, and that's every detail in the most readable form we could do. So thanks again to Doug and Karen for helping me make that so elementary for us this year.
Excellent.
yeah, I like how we can easily compare the last several years, and that's really good.
Yeah, this is the third or fourth one that we've had. How many years for us now?
I don't know,
It's like our third or fourth, and this one I can actually understand without
Okay.
having to try to decipher and pull out an abacus. And so I do appreciate that. I'll echo what council has said. Thank you very much.
I'll also touch on the directors and chiefs. We were able to give them broken out spreadsheets to give input to us to input into this larger budget, and they did a great job. Some of them for the first time seeing it. From what I understand, they didn't have access to do that before. And they didn't have visibility on what they were providing. It was usually just a meeting or, kind of cloaked in a lot of secrecy maybe. But they really worked with their staff and their departmental needs, and they got us what they needed to continue operations and to take care of their staff and to make sure Morgan's Point is served, especially the chiefs, both police and fire and their staff. they're really made sure that our safety is a top priority, and we were able to cover all of their operational needs without cutting anything, and also increase retention and recruitment for them so that they can continue to prioritize staffing for coverage of our town. So really thank you a lot to the chiefs and directors as well.
Yeah, I know that's something we're working towards as well for the department heads, is to actually provide them monthly snapshots of what they've spent, what their budget is. We're trying to work on a forecast. I'm not going to promise anything yet, where you can actually see going down the next 12 months, you know, where you're going to be. But at least you could see what's been charged, what's gone into each account, and what's going there. So that's something we're working towards.
That's a great point, Doug. I will say that I was shocked when I got here. Every single director on staff at Morgan's Point Resort said that they did not know where their budget was, and that they had to ask someone specific where their budget was, or if they had money to buy things as simple as bottled water for their staff, or they had to file a requisition to do so. I don't know if any of that firsthand, but I trust that all the directors weren't embellishing too much. And so just knowing that we needed to clean that process up and make it easy for them to read, have monthly updates and awareness of where their budget is, their staffing and operations and expenditures are. And also, and I'm going to second Doug here, I'm not going to promise the moon too quickly, because we are working around the clock to get this done in record time. But eventually, when we're caught up, the city manager's office will be working with Doug and Karen, and we'll put out a monthly budget update. And I'll present those to council. Those will be publicly on the website. So these are things that are common in the cities that we're used to working for and with, that I was really important to me to bring that here. So that kind of transparency for our citizens on our website, as well as for our council. So we're working hard to get that something we can manage here.
I have a question also about, I know we've complained a lot about FundView in the last couple of years, rightfully so, I think. Is this budget done on FundView?
I will say this. Doug and Karen have worked with FundView for as many years as it existed. They have no problem with it because they're experts. They have been able to walk us through getting this done. This budget was actually done on their software. We do still have FundView currently, but we are changing back to Encode, and that has been budgeted. It simply doesn't work for our city, and our staff cannot figure it out. I have met with the wonderful staff at FundView many times now, and they're very helpful. And, you know, it's just an operational challenge for them. They don't have the software built out to what we're needing to make it operational and work for our small city and our staff right now. We may grow into that, and their staff has been wonderful and helpful, but it doesn't fit, so we are budgeting to change back, and we do have that in the works, probably to come to council in September for their decision.
Okay, thanks.
And just so you're aware, I mean, we have, you know, we do 20 or so clients on FundView, 20 or so clients on Encode, whether it be 9 or 10. So we got experience with all different kinds of,
Wonderful.
yeah, all different kinds of software. So no really problem either way.
A topic for another time probably, but transitioning back from FundView to Encode, will we have some of those same hiccups?
We will not. No one can explain why those hiccups happened, so no one has heard of those before. And working with Doug, Wanda at FundView, and Robin and their team at Encode, everybody knows each other, everybody works well and can switch back and forth with ease. We'll make sure that the records transition appropriately with all of our teams.
Yay.
Council, anything else?
Well, from here, I will let Doug introduce Louis Breedlove, who is with Brooks & Watson, who is our auditor. And if everyone will join me to welcome him walking up to the podium with a big round of applause for him and Doug. Thank you for completing the 2024 audit in record time.
Have at it, Ray.
All right. I apologize, I was a little late. There was a traffic jam.
Thank you, sir.
I think I sent a PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if that's available. Was that PowerPoint available? I can also have it printed out, so we can just go through utilizing that if that's. Okay. Great. Well, while we're getting that set up, and I'll just quickly, I know I've met many of you. You know, for the 2024 audit, we did experience delays yet again, unfortunately, but we're happy to be able to finally get everything needed to be able to wrap up the 2024 test work, get everything prepared for the report, and have the letters that come with it ready to go. So that just got wrapped up this past week. And so we're eager to jump right into 25. And I know you guys have been kind of knee deep in budget and that all that goes with budget. And so I think as soon as that, I think we're getting ready to step right into wrapping up the next audit so we can get the city finally caught up to where you should be. So I know that's been a long awaited and eager for you all. But I do have good news. We did have a clean report issued this year for 2024. So I will utilize the PowerPoint presentation to go over the results of the audit. So just inside the front cover of that report, there's a printed out PowerPoint presentation as well as 2 letters that are required to be issued with the report. And we can do, and then I can wait for that PowerPoint if you guys want, or we can thumb through the printed out version of it. I know I'd like everybody else to be able to see it too, but this one, I'll just go ahead and get started on on that second page there, the overview of the audit process. So this page 2 of that handout, just to kind of get the ball rolling on that presentation. So we do perform the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. And so those standards require us to do a number of phases. So the first phase being the assessment phase. So even if we've done previous year audit, we always have to reassess where the city stands that year. So we do a number of process walkthroughs, questionnaires that are completed over each department. Really anywhere where money's coming in and going out, we're looking to see what are the controls that are in place, what kind of recommendations we may be able to make. And we're also looking at any risks associated with those areas, which brings us to the risk-based approach of that assessment phase. So every line item within the financial statements has a different risk associated with it. That can vary year to year, just depending on what's going on within the city and the financials. And that drives what type of procedures we perform throughout the audit, what level of detail we perform those procedures to make sure that we're comfortable with the material accuracy when it's all said and done. We also have what we call the fieldwork phase. So that kind of includes 2 components. There's the compliance fieldwork aspect of it. So we're looking at bid requirements, if there were any grants, making sure that the city's following grant requirements, Public Fund Investment Act. We will review all the city council meeting minutes. So if you all may have approved something that has a compliance component to it, we would look at that as well and ensure that the city is meeting those requirement punch points there. And then we do that actual, what a lot of people will call that field work phase over the year in financials. So we're performing cutoff procedures. So we're testing activity around year end to make sure that all the appropriate information has been properly included in the year under audit or excluded if inappropriately included. We're confirming with third party wherever possible. So your comptroller, we're looking at the assessor collector, banks, anyone that we can possibly confirm with outside of the city to get a third-party source to verify the data, we do that. And then we're also, as we're tying out that balance sheet, making sure that those are materially accurate, we're also testing those revenues and expenses to make sure that those are right, appropriately coded, and appropriately and materially reflected within the financials. Then we move into that conclusion and reporting phase, that last phase of the audit. So it goes through multiple layers of review to ensure that no additional testing procedures are needed within the audit, as well as that all standards are met within the report. And so the report that we have for you has been reviewed, all note disclosures that are required, and the way that those should be communicated by generally accepted auditing or accounting standards are met. Thanks so much. Awesome. Yes, perfect. Thanks so much. So yeah, slide 3 there. Appreciate it. Sorry about that. So this is the components of the audit report. The next slide. Okay, yep. So the components within the report, this is from front to back. It first starts with the auditor's opinion letter. That's our opinion over the financials, followed by the management's discussion and analysis. So that's also often referred to as the MD&A. That's going to give you some year-to-year comparison. It punches on a lot of the key areas within the financials or material areas of the financials. So it touches on budget activity, capital, debt-related activity, and then highlights any major changes year over year in that portion of the audit report. Behind that is your basic financial statements. So that's going to include your government-wide full accrual statements, as well as your fund level statements behind that, and then the notes to the financial statements. And so those notes are going to give you a lot of detail as it pertains to those financials. Oftentimes when you're looking at those statements, you're often wondering what those numbers actually mean. And so those notes are helpful in identifying maybe a breakdown of what those numbers consist of, or just giving language to how those numbers are arrived at. Behind that, your required supplementary information. So that's going to have your budget to actual for your general fund for the year. And then following that is your TMRS related disclosure material. As it relates to that first item, the auditor's opinion, there are 4 possible opinion types that we as auditors are able to issue. There's an unmodified opinion, a qualified opinion, a disclaimed opinion, or an adverse opinion. And you did receive an unmodified opinion for 2024. That's often referred to as a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we as auditors are able to provide, what we hope to provide. And so we're happy to say that we did issue a clean, unmodified opinion for 2024. So that's good. Next page, financial highlights, just real quick, covering some of the activity year over year. So this is just hitting on the 2024 versus 2023 change in fund balance. So 2024 had an overall decrease in fund balance of $693,000 for your general fund, which was pretty much in line with what was budgeted. It was intended to draw down that fund balance. That fund balance had grown quite a bit, and the city wanted to utilize that fund balance for 2024. So that's I've got a budget to actual here in just a second that we'll see, and you'll see that's in line with what would be expected. Your debt service fund, small change there of $7,000 increase in fund balance, and then your non-major funds, which is a consolidation of any fund that does not meet the requirement to be presented as a major fund. So those would be, they're all broken out in the back for review, but those are presented as one major grouping on the front of the non-major funds, and it had an overall decrease of $367,000. And those are just utilizing those restricted or special purpose funds as intended. So in line with the expectations there, no concerns for that drawdown. Next, as it relates to your budget to actual for the year, so this is a summarized version of your budget to actual. So from right to left, you've got your variance comparing your actuals for the year, which is that center column, and then what was budgeted after any amendments in that far left column. And so that first line there is your overall revenue for the general fund, had a positive variance, so more being received than anticipated by $262,000. Then following that, the total expenditure line, which is where we generally are mostly concerned with, and that far right there, you'll see there's a positive variance there of $86,000, so $86,000 below budget for 2024. And then your other sources and uses line, nothing was budgeted for that. There's primarily that's going to consist of transfer-related activity, and so we had a positive variance there of $25,000 for the year. So net total positive budget variance of $374,000 for 2024. So that was in good shape. Below that is just a highlight of your unrestricted portion of your general fund. So we always want to look to see that number helps to determine the health of the fund balance for the city. So what this number does is this is anything that has not been restricted within the general fund, and we want to compare that to your operating expenses for the general fund. This gives us a little bit of an indicator or a metric to evaluate whether or not there's much funds remaining to be able to help in that upcoming year. So GFOA has a recommendation of a minimum of 2 months in reserves, or 60 days, or 16%. We didn't generally recommend a goal of 25 to 50% as a good target range. Every city is a little different, so that number varies quite a bit from city to city. And so for 2023, y'all were at 59% when you compare your unassigned fund balance to your expenses for the general fund. With what I mentioned earlier, the 2024, the city planning on drawing down on that fund balance, we would expect that number to come down. So the unassigned fund balance was at 33%, which is still in a good position for 2024. I know we're in 2026 and getting ready to move on to 2027. So, but this is looking back at 2024. This is a healthy position to be in, and at the end of 2024. Next, proprietary funds. So page 6 there, this is highlighting your proprietary funds or your business type funds. We will evaluate these a little differently than we do your governmental funds, as we do expect these to be able to operate on their own and be self-sustaining. So that's the first thing we look at, is to see whether or not there is a net operating income or a loss. In 2024, the water fund had a positive income of $230,000. Wastewater was at $29,000. And then the marina had a loss of $63,000. This was a year where there was a lot of damage that occurred to the marina, and so it was shut down for a while. So that, I believe, would be the primary reason for this. I think in years past, it's not been the case. So, and I haven't looked to see how you guys are doing in 25 or 26. So, but in 2024, it was a loss, which, based on what was going on at that time, made sense that there would be a loss there. After all really non-operating activity, so any kind of transfers, any other non-operating activity, there is the overall change in that position. So there were some transfers into the water fund that brought that overall change in that position up to $963,000. Wastewater was up a little bit more than the $29,000, up to $93,000, and then the marina was pretty much the same, $63,000 loss there. And then I included that cash flow just so you can see the overall cash flow, because this does operate at a full accrual basis. So some of these changes are based on accruals and non-cash activity. So that just from a cash flow standpoint, water had positive increase in cash of $1 million, wastewater of $43,000, and then marina was down $19,000. All right. And then next, the communication letters. So this is referring to the two other letters that were inside the front cover of your report. So there's two letters that are required to go with each audit. The first item being the communication with those charged with governance. And so this is that first letter that would be there, should be the thicker of the two. And that includes a lot of required communication as it pertains to the audit. So it goes over our responsibility as the auditors over the audit, management's responsibility pertaining to the audit. It has a couple key factors I always like to point out. So one, the audit was conducted in compliance with all ethics requirements regarding independence. Two, we did encounter difficulties related to the availability of some support and timeline, but ultimately we didn't have any difficulties encountered with management beyond that. Then three, there were no uncorrected misstatements identified. So there, in the back of that, there's an exhibit with the audit adjustments that were needed for 2024, which have already been entered into the system and accepted by management. And then the second letter is communication regarding internal controls. So this is where we would highlight any items that we saw that needed some improvement or any recommendations that we may have identified. In that one, there were a few items there, some of which were related to just some of the necessary accruals needed for the year, which was that's a standard communication. But then there's a couple other items that were highlighted as it pertains to some recommendations over some processes, most of which I believe have been discussed, and a lot of changes have already been made in the process since 2024. But happy to discuss any of those with you all as well. So I'll open up to any questions you may have.
Thank you. That's a very encouraging presentation. I have a question on a different issue.
Okay.
With respect to enterprise fund transfers to the general ledger, it could be a marina, it could be some business, whatever we could develop in the community that might be profitable. Can you tell us how we can legally assist the general fund with profits? I did some work, I looked it up, and it sounds like any profits that we can make in an enterprise fund can be transferred so long as it doesn't drive up the rate that the resident pays.
Yeah, so as long as there aren't restrictions to the revenue or like the funds that were received, then yes, technically you're correct. And we do see cities do that from time to time. Whenever sometimes it's due to hard times, sometimes the utility fund ends up propping up the general fund. Ideally, they would stay in their own lane and they're self-sustaining, operating, and that those funds received in the utility fund would be able to be used to improve infrastructure. That stuff isn't cheap, so having that available is great. However, we do see oftentimes where maybe there's a project that's going on that has some water infrastructure portion to it and non-utility functions to that project, and they'll contribute to it, or they'll, they're very normal is any administrative costs that the general fund can essentially charge the utility fund for the admin costs. But I
addressing
think what
profits.
just profit. I mean, there's technically nothing that I'm aware of that would prevent you from doing that. I'd see it happen. I would encourage that it not be a regular thing to monitor that and assess on a recurring basis whether or not that's something that you would want to do regularly. But I do understand that it's available to the city and is.
There was a speaker at the SITCOG meeting recently, and he said something to the effect that it can be done, but he recommends a letter from the auditors. And I was wondering what that was like. And also, I read that if there is a bond issue related to that enterprise entity, the bond issue must describe it, must be in that bond.
Yeah, so it's very normal where a bond that's issued, the language of it is, it's not usually explicitly detailed in what it's for, but it will often indicate that utility funds can be used or the governmental side can be used. So the makeup of how those bonds are paid can sometimes change over time, where it maybe initially starts as a 50-50, but then they say, hey, you know what? This says we can use utility funds, let's just use utility funds. So I've seen that happen too, where they'll kind of change how much each fund, typically they kind of stay within like, hey, this percent, and that's how much we're gonna pay towards a bond. Or they'll, just do a big chunk out of the utility fund to help. I've seen that happen too. There's nothing that's, as long as it says in the bond document that it's a permitted source, then it technically can be used.
Have you ever, in your experience, given a letter to support transfer of profits into the general fund?
No, and I don't know that we would. I'd have to talk internally. So him saying that, I'm curious what exactly he'd be referring to. As far as like options, I think we could like come up with that, but it's always up to management. As an auditor, we have to be as careful as we can about. We don't want to make it seem as though we are telling management what to do.
Of course.
So we essentially are always going to report on what we've seen already, or we can lay out, here's some things that we see and some options that we see, but ultimately leave it up to management, or, the council to make the decision.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Jump in real quick on.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry. So forward-looking on that, whether it be profits or whether it be transfers, I know in the legislature right now, they're discussing removing or limiting the city's ability to transfer from utility funds over to the general fund. So that is something that that is at, you can go to TML and look it up, and there's about 4 things that the legislature is
Would that
discussing.
apply to something like our marina?
That would. So,
And by limiting, you expect there to be some language saying when and how you might be able to transfer, but more strict?
I would expect there to be, yes, not a direct cutoff. I would expect there to be some sort of mechanism to be able to, because it's, a lot of these cities that I work on, some of they rely on those transfers
Exactly.
to operate, and that would be a detriment to a lot of these communities without proper planning. So, I know that's being discussed. Luckily here, I don't think we don't rely on that to fund the general fund
Yet,
Nor
yet.
should we have to. I mean, we don't have to.
yet.
So, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Council, anything else? Any additional questions?
I have one additional question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your estimate? I know you've been working around the clock with Doug on the 2025 audit, just so that they can hear what I know y'all have been working magic on.
Well, I think we don't have a explicit timeline for this. I think, and I don't want to speak for Doug. I think they're prepping the 2025 numbers so that we can. I think maybe the budget was kind of the main thing right now, right? And then, but we're getting ready to get the 2025 numbers so we can start that process. I know all entries have already been made in the system for 2024. I believe I don't want to misspeak. Bank Recs nearly there or is good.
Capital assets rolled forward.
Yeah, so a lot of things have already been done for 2025, which I know was a struggle for 2024. So that's exciting for 2025. I think I gave an estimate for 2024 that unfortunately didn't get met due to unforeseen issues. So I'm always hesitant to give, but I think, if we're able to get the numbers in the next week or two, I don't know. Next week or two. Yeah, next week or two. We should have it be able to have it substantially completed within the month of September. And then my goal would be able to hopefully be able to at least have a draft in October, if not present it in October. I think that's a very reasonable timeline, assuming there's no surprise issues that come up, which have happened. So I think that would be the most optimistic timeline, would be able to have it all audit work completed within September, be able to issue in October, and then so potentially November if it's on the longer end. And then which is for 2026, that is fine, because then we're, November is usually the earliest we start for 2026 audits. So, and also, we have to talk with Zach Tax, Doug and their team and figure out what that looks like for them on that side. But I think we should be able to be in line to get in a normal schedule rhythm for 2026. So.
Thank you. Yes, so I just wanted him to confirm that's mine's the end of the year. They might have it done faster, but yeah, that should get us back in line with where we need to be.
We'll go with end of the year.
Yeah, and when he says a lot of the things for 2025 has already been done, when I started, they were not done, wasn't even touched. And so really Doug got in there and has been the one to get anything done on 2025 that's been done, and that's record time, because I started 51 business days ago, and he came on way after that. So, so thank you again for both of you for making that a reality to get us back on track with audits. We're excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's gonna be the best Christmas ever.
Yeah. We'll put a bow on it this year, so.
Okay, gentlemen, again, we appreciate you both being here. Thank you very much for your presentations. Keep the council update and showing us where we're at. Ladies and gentlemen, for the workshop, that's all we have on the agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and adjourn us at 16:58. We've got a little bit of a time now before the regular session convenes, so yeah. Madam Secretary,